What's up guys, and welcome to the new video. So as you can see by the title already, this video is all gonna be about how to choose your first pair of runners or trainers, whatever you want to call them, and how to get around this freaking huge decision that you always feel like you have to do, because let's be real, when you get the first trainer, A, they're quite expensive, and B, it's always so confusing because there are so many different brands, so many different types of shoes. So I'm here to help you out making some good decisions. I'm not gonna be like, these are the best things you should look out for. This is just my recommendation that I would give myself nowadays if I would be a newbie again. So I wish I had these recommendations in the beginning, because I feel like a lot of the videos just talk about shoe length and width and size and whatever, but there's some different points that you should look out for that are more important. So without further ado, let's start with point number one. So the first point that I would say is the biggest recommendation that you always should keep in mind when you buy your first pair of trainers is don't buy for looks, but buy for the cause of your training. And what I mean by that is there's some fancy ass sneakers out there that look super nice, that look super cool, and you just want to have them because you think like they look cool, but it's very unbeneficial if you buy something for especially like a running trainer just because it looks nice, rather than actually using something that is beneficial to your cause, whatever running you do, because some people run on concrete, some run on trails, some run in the mountains. I don't know, it's just like a lot of different options. And so you should choose a shoe that actually fits you and not just something because it's like a super nice Nike that looks extremely fast. All right, now that we get point one out of the way, let's head out for my 30-minute run. It's just a very easy one because we're pretty close to marathon, so just like a little taper now, and yeah, I'm gonna catch in with you after the run. Alright guys, so just finished the 30-minute run, which was pretty nice, and we finished that one, let me check, in 30 minutes, and I ran 5.3 kilometers, average pace was 5:40, and average heart rate was 1:43, so pretty good. We're going into marathon really nice and easy, and let's follow up with recommendation number two that I would say is very important when you choose your first trainer, and that is that you're not gonna buy the first trainer that's not gonna be your absolutely favorite one. It will take some time until you find a trainer that actually fits you, that you enjoy, because let's be real, there are a lot of different brands out there, and they offer a lot of different types of shoes, and it's very hard to narrow it down on the first try. So maybe you have to order some, send them back, go to the shop, try them out, or maybe you have a trainer that is like an 7 out of 10, which is good, but you think there's a little bit more room for improvement, and then with the next trainer you will feel even better. So it doesn't hit and miss and just try and error kind of game. So don't overthink it, don't over engineer the whole process of choosing your first trainers. At the end, if you have one that you feel like is hitting the nail on the head, is that how we say it, just take it, and maybe in the future you will have one that is even better. Alrighty guys, so as you saw, I made a beautiful little chicken soup. It's pretty delicious, and I keep on saying it, but it's actually true. Like something like this is actually kind of better than when you cook vegetables. For example, like if you would just steam a broccoli and it would steam it that much that you could just like squish it with a fork, that means probably most minerals and vitamins are gone because they are very sensitive to light and heat. But if you cook them in something like a soup or a broth, the broth itself will soak up and take up all the vitamins and minerals, and if when you eat the soup, you take it in as well. It is heartwarming, it makes you full, it's super light on the stomach, and it got proteins, vitamins, minerals, and it's just a super good meal to replenish all the glycogen. Actually not that much glycogen replenishment because it doesn't have that much carbs, but it replenishes all the lost vitamins and minerals, especially after a long run. So I'm really hungry, let's eat. So the next recommendation, and actually kind of the first proper one, is that if you are just starting out with running, you want to have an all-around sneaker and nothing crazy special. For example, you don't want to choose like a Nike Vaporfly Next Percent or something like that that costs 250 euros and is especially designed for like marathon racing. Since you will probably just like start out, you will do a few runs here and there. You just want something that is overall good, you know, it's easy on concrete, trail, whatever. You can use it pretty much every day. It will take up the impact. It will also be very durable, that it can handle a lot of mileage. So I would definitely recommend not taking something with like a carbon insole plate or something. But most of the brands do make clear which trainers are kind of for beginners. So I would take something very, very basic and simple. So the biggest point probably within the whole runner shoe community is, should you take like a cushion shoe or should you take something more minimal? And to be honest, I feel like there's no proper real answer. You have advocates in both kind of groups and everyone thinks they're right. To be honest, I feel like you just have to choose for yourself. Let's just talk about my experience here because maybe it helps you. So when I first started out running, the bones in my feet were hurting pretty bad from like all the running on the concrete. So I chose a shoe which was more cushioned, and it definitely helped me out in the beginning. And while I was still like a heel striker, it was something that was soaking up the impact. So my feet and my bones were not as I would say in pain when I first started running, but now that I'm more experienced, I have more or at least I'm trying to have more of a forefoot strike. The cushion shoe is kind of hindering me a little bit with that, so that's why I would choose nowadays a little bit more minimalistic running shoe. But to be honest, if it was for you, I would say as a beginner you maybe are more at ease with choosing a cushioned running shoe, and then later down the line you can go like more minimal if you feel like it, if it's not painful to you. And then also depends, I would say, very much on the mileage you do within 1 week, because if you're just running here and there, you probably will be at ease with a minimal shoe. But if you run like pretty much daily, maybe a cushion shoe will take away some of the impact. I know there are studies out there, apparently I never read them, I just read it on the forums, that say like the whole research on the shoes show that the cushioning isn't really kind of beneficial. Sometimes I feel like practice shows different, and if you put it to the field test and you run with a cushion shoe, it definitely feels easier than with a minimal one. So last but definitely not least is the actual recommendation when it comes to choosing your shoe or whatever you should look out for. These points are very simple and you can find them online as well. I have my phone right here. I just want to quickly flick through them, and the other recommendations I made beforehand are honestly what I feel like is more of what a newbie should be looking out for, and should be kind of, or what you don't have on the radar since you are a beginner and you don't find these points that much on the line. So now getting into the recommendation, the first and probably the most important thing obviously is the length of the shoe. So I recommend that you measure your feet beforehand. So just place or stand on the wall, place like a blank sheet of paper underneath your feet, and then at the longest point you make like a little mark and you just measure it out. And for example, you would know that your foot is 26 centimeters long. Then you go on the website of whatever brand you want to choose in the end, and they have, most of the time they have like a sizing guide where you can see, for example, if you have 26 centimeters long feet, you need like a 44 euro size. And then most of the time it is recommended that you go at least 1.5 to 2 centimeters up on that. So you would choose something like a 46. I know this sounds crazy. I was thinking these shoes will be way too big for me as well, but once I ran in them, I realized you definitely need the longer shoe, because when you run, your feet will be pushed forward and you need the extra space, and you cannot choose something that you would also take, for example, like normally you would wear a 44. If that would be like your dress shoe size, this is definitely too small for running. Next point is the toe width. So obviously, depending on how wide your foot and how widespread your toes are, you either want a shoe that is more widespread or more narrow. For my case, for example, I have very narrow feet, So choosing something that is very wide will make my shoe kind of slippery and my foot slippery inside. I don't have like a good stand. So definitely choose something according to your toe spread and your toe width. Next is the proper arc and also kind of like the shoe tongue and laces, because depending on how high the arc of your foot is, you want something that feels comfortable with that. For example, in my New Balance, it is a bit more comfier than in my Hoka Uniones. And that is probably also something which is very brand specific. To be honest, it's also kind of like trial and error. So in my case, for example, one time I laced my shoes too strong or like too tight and I had some bruises on my feet. So that is also something you should look out for. So the arc should be according to your foot, and you also shouldn't lace your shoes too tight like I did. Then the next one is the heel cup. So depending on how your foot again is shaped. So in my case, for example, since my Achilles tendon is kind of sticking out, I would probably get blisters all over the place if the heel cup would be very kind of minimalistic or harsh. So definitely you want to choose something that feels kind of comfy, where it just smooths on your Achilles tendon. And you will see on the shoes if they have like a very high heel cup or very low, and then depending on however it looks at your feet, you can choose something accordingly. And the last one is obviously the material, because depending if you run on trail or concrete, you maybe can have something which is more thicker or more kind of like thin. And also depending if you run, depending on where you live, you will have a shoe that is more for the cold days, or more if it's hot, maybe you want something that is a bit more light, where your feet can actually breathe and it's not as sweaty, because that's also something you want to avoid, that your feet are not like crazy soaked all the time, because this could also cause blisters. So definitely choose something that is according to the weather you run in. So this is already it with the recommendation for the actual shoe. I'm just gonna name it real quick so you can have make like a little screenshot or something. So it is length, toe width, then it's the proper arch like shoe tongue and laces, heel cup, and then the material. Just keep in mind, obviously, I'm not talking about like cushioning or minimal shoes. Just keep in mind, I'm not talking about like cushion shoes or whatever. That's what I talked about earlier. So that is a whole different ball game. Is that how I say it? Alright guys, and this should already be it for this video. Don't be confused by the balloons in the background. Kim had birthday a couple of days ago and we celebrated it very nicely, and I got her these balloons. That's why they are still in the living room. I want to close off the video real quick here and say hopefully you had some insight on this video or through this video. Hopefully it helps you with choosing your first pair of trainers. I'm gonna list all the recommendations and kind of things I talked about in the description box, so it's easier for you to just like reread it and kind of grasp the whole thing I was talking about. And otherwise, like I said, I hope you enjoyed the video. I definitely did. Actually, already did take the video of how to choose your running shoes, but I was so unhappy with the video that I deleted it and I was redoing it again. And I really enjoyed filming this one, since it was a mixture of like kind of vlogging and then the whole informative kind of part. And if you enjoyed this video, maybe leave a like, maybe leave a comment down below, and otherwise I'm going to see you in the next one.